This is season number 19 of Bass Talk Live with Matt Pengrack. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Aftco, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Pro Guide Batteries, Beatdown Outdoors, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, and Omnia Fishing. Hit them with the hook, Jeffries.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We got the dude on today. He in 6 short days of fishing has probably become the hottest thing to he's become the hottest thing to ever hit the Bassmaster Opens. We've got a cull episode with Dave Mercer coming out in a couple weeks, and I'll just spill the beans now. The topic on it is Ben Milliken's Bassmaster Open win on Toledo Bend, the most significant win in Bassmaster Open history. And we compared it to some other wins. The one that most notably came up was when Mike Iaconelli needed to win the final Open, I believe, out of Buffalo or something to keep the classic streak alive. But I mean, dude, that was nothing compared to what we just saw Ben Milliken do. So but we're not going to keep the man waiting. We'll just bring him right in right now. Mr. Milliken, thank you for jumping on BTL yet again to talk about there's no other way to say it, a dominating Bassmaster Open victory on Toledo Bend last week.
What's up, Matt? Thanks for having me on here. That's a little bit ridiculous to think about. You guys talking about the win in that.
How is that ridiculous?
Because, dude, I'm just getting started with this. That was amazing. I can't believe it happened, but I don't think you can put me in the same.
No, I'm not putting you in the same breath as those guys. I'm putting the win and the accomplishment in the same breath. Like, I mean, okay, a Bassmaster Open win, Bassmaster Open, right? Very meaningful, potentially life-changing for that angler. For that angler's maybe sponsors or immediate family, but it's a Bassmaster Open win. It's not a classic win, an elite series win. There's typically not a lot of industry ripples when there's a Bassmaster Classic win. You created some industry cannonballs.
Yeah, pretty cool, man. I seriously really appreciate you having me on and all the kind words you reached out. It really shows that I know you didn't have a tournament that you wanted to have at Toledo, Matt, and shows the type of man you are to reach out and say some of the really kind of things you said. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, actually mention that. So you texted me during practice and said, what do you think to top 10 and win? And I basically said, dude, you're playing a different game than I am here. Like I can't even go out to venture. I struggled, get into that on tomorrow's show. I think you were just on, you did a live stream with Johnny Schultz yesterday and Fished the Moment. We did a really cool thing. Johnny Schultz spent an hour breaking down how, where, when, all the data points of how it's supposed to go down. We filmed that before the Open went off limits, and now we're going to kind of compare it to what I did for my 141st place finish. But it was pretty apparent when I talked to you that you were playing a different game than almost everybody else out there. Did it surprise you on how, I don't want to say easy it was, but did it surprise you on how easy it was?
It surprised me how it went down. I thought I could win on this one offshore school I found if no one else found it, because I had seen the quality there the first day. I checked it in practice, and I had seen how difficult it was to scan for these bass that just weren't ready to move out on some of that main lake structure yet, because there was so many gizzard shad out there. You know, just they kind of show up as pretty good sized blobs, 4 or 5 feet apart, like a lot of these big bass do a lot of times. There was schools of white bass, there was schools of spotted bass. And so I found a school, and it was kind of by accident. I found it, and then I put the trolling motor down, and I realized they were giant bass. Caught a 6 and a 7 and a 3 and my 3 casts on it. And then I kept going back to it and checking it when no one was around in practice, and they stayed there, and the school got bigger. So I thought I was going to do it there, and that's not how it worked out.
Oh, so it didn't go down on that school that you told me you had found.
No, I did catch probably 3 or 4 fish maybe that I weighed in over the course of 3 days from that school. But they were actually really tough. I had to do a bunch of other things.
All right, we're gonna ease you into the show by talking about a little bit of strategy and how it went down, and then we'll get into the significance once you're loosened up and willing to talk about it. But you went 29.8 and 26.15 on the first couple days. The 29.8 on day one. Did you start on that school that you thought was going to be the megalodons and then have to readjust?
Yeah, so I started on that school. I had a bad boat number, and I was jacked when I got there, and no one was there. And when I had never fished it or shown up on it, very first thing in the morning, I'd always been there at like between 9 and noon or so in practice to check them. And when I put the trolling motor down, they were all broken up. There wasn't that many fish there. Finally found some in a group that were by this giant tree. And I proceeded to break off like 15 casts in a row on a deep crankbait, hair jig, line through, jerk bait. And I was going crazy. Like every single cast, not even get it to the bottom, hung up in the tree. I'd change angles, kept doing that. I was going absolutely crazy. So I was like, after an hour and a half or so, I could see some fish. They just wouldn't bite. I was like, screw this. I got to go do something else. And that's when I went to kind of like the backup pattern type deal, which I can't really say was a super backup pattern. I was planning on doing it because I had caught a couple 4-pounders doing it in practice, which was dragging a Carolina rig on some of the clay shad spawn points. And so I went right over, and my first 3 casts, I caught 3 keepers on the Carolina rig. And so that was amazing. Got me kind of going.
What do you mean keepers? Like only 5s and 6s, or are we actually
little
talking like keepers?
No, I think the first one was like a high 3. Next one was a 5.5, and the next one I think maybe was like a 3.
That's disgusting. Continue.
Yeah, it was honestly lucky. So like in practice, I had found that stuff, and there was a threadfin shad spawn going on. I could see the little tiny flickers like the threadfins do. It was a low light type deal in the mornings, and then they would just, and it's way up in like 2 to 5, 6 feet of water. And then they would just kind of drift out and ball up and get in some of those drains. And there was just little fish chasing them in the drains right next to it after that. So it was kind of a low light deal. And I thought that deep spot, I had screwed up my timing by going there first, and then I wrecked the low light period. But
oh yeah, so you thought you had absolutely swapped what you were supposed to do, and you'd be screwed with both bites, and then you'd be struggling all day.
That's what I thought would happen. I'd have to just grind forever. So when I went up there and I caught 3 in a row on a Carolina rig, man, that was incredible. It made me feel so much better. But then what happened was what really changed the tournament for me. I stopped catching them on the Carolina rig. I threw a couple different baits on the rig. I cranked it. I drug a swing head. I threw a jerk bait. I threw a topwater. And then I was like, I haven't tried a glide on any of this stuff in practice, because it was basically just like pull up, catch one on a Carolina rig if they're there, leave the spot so no one saw me in practice. And I hadn't had any luck on the big glide bait in practice at all either. Not a bite on it in 4.5 days of practice. So fired out there, and I don't know if it was the first cast. I think it was maybe the first cast. I had one that was almost 8 pounds, eat it, which was awesome. And then a couple casts later, I caught a 7 something on it. And after that, I knew things could get a little bit nutty. And they did. I just kind of bounced around these clay points, and I found new clay points on my maps and started fishing them. And I'm not trying to brag or anything or anything like that, but I really had a shot at a mid to high 30s bag that first day, based on not what was following my bait or what I saw on my screen, but what actually bit it and swiped at it and just didn't get hooked and came off, and stuff like that. It could have been really, really crazy.
Like, what are we talking about that you lost and came off? I
mean, I didn't see it, all of them, but definitely lost some like 7 to 10 pounders, like a handful. And
like one crank in, 2 cranks in, or at the boat?
Yeah, like swiping at it and go to bow up, and just when you get all the way to bow up, they just come off. The treble just tears rips through the side of their face or didn't catch them right or they didn't get in their mouth. I mean, they're eating a big shad bait. A lot of the times they'll just grab the side of it like that. They'll pop it, T-bone it, not ever get a hook. So that's why you get them in the side of their face a lot of times when it's pulling by their body. But yeah, it could have been nuts. Could have been really crazy. And really the same with day 2. I had, what did I have? Almost 27?
26 and change.
Yeah, 26.15, I think it was.
Yep, 26.15. So that's 27 pounds.
I left all my best stuff at like 9:30 in the morning and just went practicing. I tried all new spots because I knew there was going to be some big local tournaments on Saturday, and just, you know, your typical Texas local fishermen out Saturday too. And it was a zoo out there. And so I left all that stuff because I didn't want to be seen, went and fished new stuff, and really laid off them that day. But that could have been a good day too.
Okay, what made you pick up the glide on day 1? You've got, you just said you've got a 5+, you've got some 3s on the Carolina rig. Open angler like me would say, all right, we're grinding this for the whole day, and we're going to get 8 to 10 bites, and we're going to pick up the Carolina rig. Or I wouldn't say that, but we're going to pick up the swing head. I did catch one on a Carolina rig in this tournament. It was 14 and a half inches. I was proud of it. Yeah. Anyway, what made you pivot and pick up the glide? You had 4.5 days where you hadn't gotten bit on it. Why not just grind it out with the Carolina rig and come in with a 20-pound bag?
Because I hadn't thrown it enough in practice because I didn't really have a reason to. I know when it's going to go down just from doing it so much. Just so much experience with that glide bait. And I was panning out and seeing that there was 7 to 10 pounders. There was at least 7 or 8 of them on that spot, on that one shallow clay point. And those fish don't eat Carolina rigs and other crankbaits hardly ever. And I know that there's a couple presentations and a couple baits that they do eat. And so, I mean, try to seize the moment, seize the day, man. I saw the fish were out there and I hadn't thrown it yet. And so I sent it out there. But what I've talked about on some other podcasts and some of those articles and stuff is it really benefited me that shad spawn changed as the tournament went on. And I don't know if it was day 1 of the practice or it had been going on for a couple days, but stop seeing those little flickers on the screen and start seeing these little little dots that were more like you'd see 3 to 10 of them rolling around on the points. And those were the gizzard shad. And so that was another thing that kind of clued me in, especially after I caught those couple on the big glide, that this spawn changed to that gizzard spawn. And when that happens, it can get really crazy with the big bait once they get up there. Those bass just know it. Those biggest bass in the lake, they know when that's happening. I don't know how, if they're following around no matter where they're at in the water column, but it was kind of like a perfect storm. And the great thing about the gizzard spawn for me was that happens. That didn't get cranked up, and those gizzards didn't start showing up until 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And it only got stronger as the day went on. And we started seeing some of the stuff like we see at a couple of these little local lakes where you'll hear a splash and you'll look over and you'll just see like a 12, 14-inch gizzard shad, like, you know, like a flying fish would be come out of the water. You don't see any blow-ups. You don't see anything, but he's not out there jumping for the fun of it. He's getting chased, and things are about to happen.
Wow. You said a key word. You said, you know, when it's going to go down based on based on what you're seeing, I'm assuming with your forward facing sonar out there. Can you give a couple examples of what you look for that you go, oh my gosh, these fish are positioned and ready to eat. I need to be picking up that glide. Like, what does it look like out there when you're looking at it where it gets you excited?
Yeah, you're panning out in 3 to 5 feet of water, and there's a handful of giants swimming around up there. They ain't up there to do anything besides eat, you know. And obviously
they're hunting.
Forward facing. Exactly. I don't keep 2 confidence baits on the deck. I have like 30 rods on the deck at all times, and I flat out experiment. Every single cast is an experiment. Throw it in there, see how they react, pick up a different bait. But the biggest thing on each spot that I would do, I did it the whole tournament. And I know everyone wants to talk about how sexy the glide bait is and how it was won on that or whatever. that's really not how it completely went down. Like, I would make 5 casts with a Carolina rig on every single point before I would ever pick that glide up, because I know just from throwing that big glide so much, they follow it like crazy. Even if they want to eat it, a lot of times they don't. And you can pull the best fish on the entire point, or all the best fish on the point, or just 3-pounders on the point, all of them off the side of it to your boat. And then that whole point is wrecked. Yeah, there's not very many instances where you throw a big bait and they don't eat it, where they didn't even follow it or pull off their spot, to where you can be like, okay, I'll throw a Ned rig in their next cast and catch them. It wrecks the spot. And so I was very strategic in that way to throw that Carolina rig first. And I caught so many fish on the Carolina rig, man. I could have easily won the tournament just with the Carolina rig.
Really?
Yep.
Why were there
maybe
not more
easily,
guys?
Maybe by like 3 pounds or something.
That's pretty easily. Why were there not more guys doing this? It sounds like Main Lake clay points with giants up there and flipping shad. Like, there's 200 plus guys in the field. It seemed like you were able to just roll wherever you wanted and catch giants. Did it surprise you that there were not more guys up there doing the same thing?
There was kind of some guys doing it, but I think they maybe weren't fishing shallow enough, because a lot of these points, I mean, they look so sexy on the map. They go way out into the lake, and it blew my mind, and it continues to blow my mind. I see it a lot down here in Texas. How many giant fish will pull up in 1 or 2 feet of water when
they were right. You were on the bank. You could see the bank in the background of all your pictures. And I was shocked at that, because I assumed, I was out there idling and looking around, and it was so hard because it's so sloping and it's such a big area on all those points. And there's so much standing timber out there. And then after the tournament, I see it and I'm like, that son of a gun was right up against the damn bank.
Yeah, it was wild. Like I said, it blows my mind how many giants will pull up in that amount of water at that time of the day. Slick, calm, sunny, middle of the afternoon, they'll slide right up there and do that. And man, I've only seen it a couple times before. I've never had it happen in a tournament, but that second day I really got dialed in. And the second day I only caught 5-pounders in my limit. All I had was 5 something. So they were all between like 5.1 and 5.7. So very consistent. And so I was just calling by ounces. Some days you're like that with the big bait, where you don't catch the giant ones, and some days you don't catch any. But I was catching these fish up shallow, like middle of the day in the afternoon, and they smelled disgusting because they reeked of dead gizzard shad so bad. Like, it was the most potent, nasty smell when you pop their mouth open and take that bait out. It was so funny.
Micah brought this up, and that was my next question. You had a dude the first day that had like 3 for 16 plus. I don't know what your guys had the second day, but I mean, is he just dragging a rig or something behind you, and you're just around that type of quality fish? Because I mean, dude, you had a co-angler who in 3 fish brought in as much as I weighed in 10 fish over 2 days. It's fairly depressing on my end, but very impressive on your end.
Yeah, so AJ was with me on day 1, and he was great. I enjoyed the time fishing with him. So nothing that I'm going to say is negative about anything that he did. But I had a limit and was culling a few times before he had a keeper in the boat on day 1. And I had told him, like, we're going to throw a Carolina rig a lot, so drag it. Trust me, you'll catch fish, just do it. And I think he was throwing a Zoom lizard and a Zoom baby brush hog. And I was like, I caught a couple, and I start talking to the camera, showed him the 6 cents hog wallow bait. And he's like, do you think I could try one of those hog wallows? And I was like, absolutely, man, 100%. And I swear, one of the first casts in the same spot, he caught a 6-pounder. And I don't remember when he did it again, but I gave him a whole bag of them then, because he tore it up after a couple bites. He caught a 3-pounder. And then towards the end of the day, I was like, he's like, man, I'd love to fill my limit out. I was like, yeah, I know. And I wanted to catch one more kicker too, because I had those couple big ones, but I did have like a high 3 in my bag or something. So I went back to that point I started on, and I throw the glide around a little bit, and I was down getting something, and I hear him say, oh, I got another good one. And I was like, oh yeah. And I look back, and it jumps, and it was like a 6.5-pounder. He gets it in. I was like, oh, I could have used that one, but it is what it is. It's part of the Bass Opens, just the way you kind of have to strategize things. I wasn't front-ending or anything, but he was firing across those points too. And yeah, man, 16 pounds with 3 fish on the hog wallow was pretty incredible.
That's strong. 5 minutes into the first morning, my co-angler caught a 7-1.
Oh,
we'll talk about that later. So,
you were around him.
Let me ask this. You legitimately believe, I know you're part of Six Sets is your jam, but you legitimately believe that you got more bites on this than a brush hog?
Yeah. So
what? Okay. Explain.
It's just
convince
the way,
me, Ben.
Dude, it's just the way it is sometimes, you know. I threw brush hogs and lizards and all sorts of I like to throw the 6 cents flush. It's like a fluke style bait a lot on the Carolina. That's actually what I've been using a lot. And so I experimented with different baits in practice, and that's what they ate the best. It's not rocket science, and a lot of Carolina rigging is more technique than bait, I feel like, but that bait is very special. As you can see in the picture, it's got the 3 different appendages, and they're all different, so they all flap different. And that also, since they have they're perfect on both sides of the body and the back, it keeps it perfectly level, and so it doesn't roll over or look unnatural to a fish. Like, you don't want any bait obviously to roll over. You throw a swim jig, a swim bait, anything, you don't want it cocked off to the side. So yeah, I think just, you know, flowing over those shallow points, it looks really, really natural. I could have caught them on some other baits too, but I caught them, I think, better on that one.
Run through your terminal tackle for the C rig.
Yeah, I was throwing 3/4 or 1 ounce weights, even up there super shallow. The nice thing was it was clay and not rock, and so I only broke off maybe once the whole time, the whole 3 days. So that was incredible, even though it felt super nasty and hard down there. But nothing crazy, man. 3/4 or 1 ounce tungsten, bead, brass clacker, little swivel, and then a 3/0 hook on the hog walla. I try to fish as small of a hook as possible. Yeah, I try to fish as small of a hook as possible and as light of a hook as possible, because I think that bait needs as much natural movement as possible down there, because that's the point of a Carolina rig, is the freedom of movement.
Did grass play into your game plan at all? It sounds like there wasn't a blade of grass that impacted a bite you had.
It did not. I practiced and tried it a little bit. I knew it would get pounded by guys in the tournament. Every time I'd roll into there, into 6 Mile or the other one down there, that had a bunch of grass in it. There was boat stacked on top of each other. Kind of figured it would be that way because there isn't a lot of good grass on Toledo right now, but no, I didn't catch any out of that.
All right, you said we're going to take a break, but I'll give you time to think about this next question, because I'm going to ask you 2 questions. You're not afraid of the tough questions. You fit into a bunch of different categories, but you fit into the YouTuber category. You also fit into the big bait guy category. There's a category of guys who have been trying to do this with the big bait at the top level for a number of years, haven't been able to put it together. There's a category of YouTubers for the last couple of years that have been trying to do this. They haven't been able to put it together. You've taken the 2 hardest groups and done it with the big baits as a YouTuber. I want to get your thoughts on why you think you've been able to put this together, and guys at the top have it, and guys who do this for a living have it. Fair questions?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
All right. We'll get into that when we come back with, still has to sound weird, Bassmaster Open Champion 2024 Bassmaster Classic Qualifier, Ben Milliken. We'll be back right after this. It's a BTL on a Tuesday.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
You need one legendary brand, top on Strike King.
So I'm a big guy, you know, a lunker. a two sandwich eating kind of man. And on behalf of all of those bigger, I gotta say it once and for all, it's bad enough that the fish look smaller in our hands. The last thing we should have to worry about is getting quality outdoor clothing that fits. AVCO, any fish, any water.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at ShorelineBoatandRV.com. Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa.
I'm the kind of guy that never leaves a house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Tuesday with Bassmaster Open champion Ben Milliken. Pose a question before the break, but I have forgotten to ask you this the last 3 times you've been on. And I don't remember you covering it. How did the Orkin thing come about?
Oh, that was pretty crazy, man. So
national commercial, right?
Yeah, that was wild. That was a crazy experience for me. I was out on a fishing trip actually, and I was working with a marketing agency at the time. And they reached out to me and said, hey, this company wants to do a commercial with you. Are you familiar with Orkin? And I was like, yes. And they're like, well, they'd like you to do a commercial. What would you charge for that? And I told him, and he's like, well, they want you to come out, and it's in California. I was like, okay, well, I'm not really super interested in doing that. And he's like, well, they want you to do it next month. And they'll pay you for it. And they're saying, like, it's residual money over the course of time, once with views and stuff. And so I started looking into it. He's like, just meet with the director and everything. And so this was at like the end, that was like the last week of January, a couple of years ago. This was 2 years ago. And last, I don't even know when it was. We did this last
year ago.
God, I don't even remember, honestly. It was a while ago.
Winning the sport distorts the time-space continuum.
Oh, that and many other things. So the end of the end of January, at the last week, they're like, and so I do this meeting, and he's like, we want to do it in February. And I was like, oh man, that's a quick turnaround. I'll see if I can do it. And I finally agreed to do it. He's like, okay. So Tuesday, your flight will, you'll have a driver come pick you up for your flight. And that was in like 3 days. And it was my wife's birthday. And I was like, no, I can't do it next week. And they're like, we'll fly you first class and your wife and your son out to LA. We'll pay for all your food, all your lodging, everything. And I guess I shouldn't just say like that's a financial thing for me. But it really was kind of out of the blue. I don't have any ties to Orkin or anything. And so I was like, screw it. It'll be a cool experience. So they flew us out to Hollywood, and we show up on set. Like they picked us up with a driver from our house. Take us to this fancy hotel. They took us to wardrobe and everything. Show up on set in this neighborhood with this staged house that they had picked out for this commercial, and it's like a 200-person crew for this commercial for one day. It was absolutely mind-blowing. Like 5 trailers there and stuff to do hair, makeup, lighting, haul everything in, and yeah, we filmed it. We flew in, did wardrobe, next day, filmed all day, went out to eat everything that night, and flew back to Texas the next day. It was
that boat that they had, was that a Legend?
It was,
Or
I don't
nitro?
remember what
Because,
it was.
okay.
They tore it, so they had to take. That's the crazy thing about national TV and these commercials. They take logos off of everything.
Motor,
So, like,
everything. We're going to run the
Yep.
commercial here in a second. So
deal, motor, boat, everything. They're like, we'll put your logos and you can wear your 6 Sense, Milliken Fishing, Waterland, all that stuff. I was
okay,
like,
that
cool.
makes sense.
Great promotion. But they're like covering up the Nikes on my shoes.
The motor is just blacked out. It looks like a la
Motor's blacked
Steve
out.
Kennedy 2007.
Yeah, and it's so corny, the commercial. The boat's just like parked in the front lawn, like that's where you would back your boat up. It's kind of funny.
And so there's only one. So this is it, the 30-second one that I found.
Well, there's a bunch of different versions based on if it's on television, if it's on social media, which platform it's on. But yeah.
Okay, we'll see if we can run this one. Hold on. All right, here it is. You ready?
Let's do it.
Obviously, we got termites.
Well, first thing is, you got to know what they're biting on.
Uh-oh, I messed it up. That was my fault.
Jeez.
I'm
Who
an
is this
idiot.
guy?
That's my first time doing this. I appreciate you coming on the show. All right. Here we go. All right, we'll restart it. All right, here we go.
Obviously, we got termites.
Well, first thing is, you got to know what they're biting on.
Oh, yeah.
This aged birchwood is perfect for the big ones this time of year.
Oh,
They gobble it up like a candy bar.
nice.
What's going on?
What?
I told you to hire a pro.
I did get a pro.
An Orkin pro.
I got this.
Got termites? Don't call any pro. Call the Orkin Pro. With over 120 years of experience, nobody's better. Orkin, the best in pests.
You're still paying me for this.
Nope, just relax.
There you go. So that's
There
one
it
of the
is.
version, but that's primarily what it was.
Yeah,
for 200
yeah.
people and flying your family out and paying you
It
a
was-
king's ransom. You got
it
to
was-
flip
it was
a piece of
incredible.
wood.
Flipped a piece of wood with my little tackle box. I did get to use my own rod and reel and everything. So yeah, it was great. But man, it was absolutely wild to see what goes into a TV production like that. We literally did every single line, every expression, like 10 different ways. And then they would change the camera angles. They would change the lighting. They would do it a different way 10 times, change everything else again, put a giant diffuser on a crane up in the air over the sun.
Really?
All that. Oh man, it was wild how much goes into just like a highly produced commercial like that.
So that had to be like close to over $500,000 just to have that 130-second commercial with that many people and
I
all
have
that.
no idea. Had to be. I have no idea on that side of things, but man, it was just a cool experience to see all that because I'm literally just like one take Tim on all my videos. Like,
Yeah.
Cole, are we ready? Okay. Let's film the intro. All right, time to fish. You just go. Could you hear what I said? No? All right, whatever. We just won't film an intro.
Huh. That's crazy.
Frank liked the commercials. He just texted me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Frank is back on Thursday. We have day 4 with Frank Scalish back. Frank didn't have a voice the last couple weeks, so he's back in action, and I believe he has a functioning boat for the first time in like a year and a half.
You better not say that out loud.
You know how that goes. I don't want to jinx him. Before the break, I brought it up. I said you're, I think self-admittedly in 2 groups. You're part of the YouTuber group. That's made a great living for you and your family and a great following of MFers and people who follow you. We'll start out there. I'd say there's been 4 or 5 of these of what I would categorize. You have to categorize it as YouTube anglers who primarily they're known for their content creation, not their tournament results. Is that a better way to say it?
There you go.
That have attempted to fish at the AAA level without success. What do you think it was that has allowed you in 2 tournaments, regardless of if you zero the next 7, Ben, you've still earned the respect. You have 2 top 5 finishes, a win, and you're in the Classic. Anything else the rest of the year is gravy. Making the Elite Series obviously has to be on your list. What do you think it is that has made you to excel when these other very accomplished anglers who have large followings and spend a lot of time on the water have not had success at that open Toyota and MPFL level?
Well, the thing is, like, you don't have to be an accomplished angler or a good angler to get a lot of views and make a living on social media. And something that people, forget or don't know about me is I fished tournaments for like 10 years before I ever picked up a camera or tried to do it. And there's a big difference between grinding and knowing the tournament life and wanting to fish professionally, and knowing what it takes to fish professionally, and someone who gets into something because they heard it makes some money or makes a lot of money. And I guess one thing that kind of sets me apart and is really different, my channel isn't tip videos. I mean, anybody that's decent on camera and well-spoken and also good at editing or decent at editing or has a videographer editor can make a tip video and make it sound like they know what they're talking about and get a decent amount of views, especially if they've been around for a while. But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean you know how to actually go and do it or make the adjustments needed to go do it. I've put in so much time trying to perfect and master so many different techniques, from baits this big to 15-inch baits on so many different bodies of water. And really this move down to Texas 2 years ago has helped me so much, because not only can I fish 365 days a year, but people don't realize how vast Texas is with its different climates and different types of lakes and bodies of water that are different at different times of the year. You can fish shallow, muddy stuff. You can fish rivers. You can fish super clean water stuff, tons of good hydrilla lakes, highland reservoirs, rock reservoirs, giant fish on big baits, giant fish on tiny baits, average fish, power plant lakes. And when I go out and film, I try to put together as good of a product for the viewer. But when I go out, I generally don't have an idea in mind. Like today's video, we're going to teach people how to throw a Ned rig. No, I go out and I grind and try to catch the biggest fish in the lake every single day, no matter what bait it's on. And then we'll make a video out of that. And that's what I've been doing for a long time. And since I got down to Texas, that's what I've been doing. And it's been, I'd be lying if I said, man, there's been a lot of tough times for me mentally on the water, especially since I moved down here, where I'm out here and I'm not getting the best feedback on views, or people are talking shit like crazy for no reason. And I'm just having a tough day on the water. And there's been times, and Cole will tell you, like I'm laying on the boat deck in the middle of the day, just on my back, tears in my eyes, because I'm just like, what is this for? I mean, I can go out and bust 45-pound limit on a glide bait on a lake where no one's ever caught a 9-pounder before. And I can take it and get 27,000 views after driving 4 hours each direction that morning, getting up at 2 a.m, being away from my family. And what am I doing this for? And I've had a lot of those moments since I've been down here in Texas. Like, why did I move my life down here for this? And these last 2 tournaments is a culmination of, that's why I've busted my ass and I've grinded so hard, and I will continue to grind so hard and work so hard at this, because it's just what came from that hard work and that time.
What made you jump in this year and not last year, the year before that, or wait another year to where you've got even another year under? Why this year?
I just had enough. I don't know why. I guess I felt like I wanted to sharpen up a little bit before. Honestly, I never really had a ton of desire to fish the opens. But then when they changed the rules, I think that helped a lot too. They made it more of a big overall picture of 9 tournament events. I've always felt like the more different types of fisheries that they went to, the better chance I had. Whereas opposed to like a schedule where they go to Ross Barnett and Red River and Arkansas River, that does not fit me at all of what I would like to do. So taking 9 guys from all 9 tournaments was a huge thing for me. Cutting down the practice time was huge for me. And I just started thinking about it and just kind of decided that this is the time, this is what I'm going to do it. And I wasn't going to wait any longer.
You said the Classic was your lifelong goal, your lifelong dream to make a Bassmaster Classic. Short-term goal, are you 100% in on qualifying for the Elite Series, fishing the Elite Series, documenting the Elite Series, being a Bassmaster Elite Series pro? Like, is that 1A now that you have a win in the Classic knocked out?
Yeah, I can't, and I've been asked this a few times now. I can't say that I have like a goal to be on the Elite Series and win classics or win AOI for the next 30 years or something like that, because I know how difficult that lifestyle is and that career is, just from my friends that are on the Elite Series and talking to them. But yeah, absolutely. If I qualify, like that's my goal, is to qualify for the Elite Series now. And I'm not going to go nickel and dime and try to catch 12 pounds a day the rest of the year. I'm going to try to win every single tournament. I'm not going to swing for the fence. I'm just going to try to find the winning fish and conservatively do the best I can to how many days we got left this year, Matt?
Well, it depends how many day threes
20.
you make left. For me, I probably got about 14. You probably have about 22.
All right. I got 22 days left to do good.
All right. The other half to that question is there are diehard tournament anglers who have transitioned into the big bait game. I'll name them. Zaldane's at the top of that list. You've seen what Carl's done, Brandon Polinick. The only one that I'm aware of who's been able to really kind of transition that into a win would be Lee Livesey on Fork, where he was able to take a topwater, a glide. The rest of them, you're talking one big day. You're talking... It's been very difficult to find the niche in multiple day tournaments for the big baits. Do you just understand it better than them? Was it just a lightning strike where you knew when to throw what? I mean, where does the big bait niche fall now? Because it's been, hey, this is kind of a tease for the tournament. You can see what could happen, but it's never going to happen, and you're going to be disappointed in a 3 or 4 day tournament. You took that and turned it into a W.
Yeah, so there's two things with that, really. Just like everything else in fishing, you have to know when to leave, when to set something down, when to pick something up. And from my experience in all these different lakes, all these different types of days, all different times of the year, and not just guessing or sending it all day and seeing what happens, but seeing the fish's reaction every single cast on forward facing. I know exactly what to look for, what they're doing, and it's ever changing. I never know what to expect. And so every cast is an experiment. And so it's stupid to go out and throw it all day and just be like, I'm swinging today. I got to catch a big bag. I'm throwing the big bait all day. It's just not feasible. But knowing when to pick it up, as opposed to going and getting some topwater bites in the morning, going in on a deep crank in school, picking up the Carolina rig like I did, and just supplementing that is huge. And then the second thing is, not to pick on any of those guys, but there are specific baits and movements in different types of baits and lures, and it varies per it's not even just like, oh, a Hinkle shad is a great bait. Like I've gone through like 15 Hinkle shads. I've had 2 that are legit money, absolute killers. And there's inconsistencies with these baits, and I know from throwing them in the water, and I test them in my pool. I spent too much time, hundreds of hours. I spent 20 times as much time testing baits in my pool as I have swimming in my pool since I moved down here to Texas. And I know what movements and what needs to happen with the bait to make it absolutely money. And there's different types and styles of baits that work on different pieces of cover at different times of the year, on different sizes of fish, on different applications. And I know what those are, and I'm always learning, and I'm always trying different baits, but I know exactly what I'm looking for. And so that's what's a little bit different between just picking up a mag draft, which is basically a swim jig, and doing what I did in this tournament.
Or just having one glide that you throw whenever you're gliding.
Correct.
So you look at the big bait game, the glide bait game, like, I'm not comparing you to like a crankbait expert looks at a deep diving crankbait. There's a bunch of different ones in a bunch of different colors with a bunch of different actions, whether you're trying to bang it off wood, whether you're trying to bang it off the bottom, whether you're fishing suspended fish. You look at that like any other tool in the box, not, ooh, I tied on my glide bait.
1000%, man. That's just a misunderstanding. I get that question all the time. What's a good rod for a swim bait?
Totally depends.
And I'm like, I have like 15 rods for all different types of swim baits, all different sizes of swim baits. Same thing. I mean, if I asked you, what's the best crankbait rod? Like, what's the best Texas rig rod? Like, you're going to have 1,000 different answers.
You even say that on a drop shot. There's a million different factors.
Absolutely. Or what's the best finesse rod for spinning? Like, I mean, there's so many different variables to that. And so it's the same thing. It's the traditional time on the water. But the biggest thing for me that I think a lot of swim bait guys struggle with is you got to take the ego out of it. There's so much ego involved with that big swim bait thing and the big swim bait bite. I literally do not care if they will only eat a 15-inch swim bait, or they want to eat a 2-inch Kitech, or they want to eat a Carolina rig, or they want to eat a crankbait. I don't care. And I will find out each cast and use that as my data every single cast based on what I'm seeing with the fish, what they want. And I'll keep every rod on the deck and we'll see what they want.
I struggle a lot with, so I saw a picture of you. You had a big line through. Oh, look, another 7-pound line through, 5 feet up the line.
That was
Milliken,
crazy one,
smiling, hair flowing in the wind. Probably didn't even keep it. Probably culled that fish out. But then obviously you had the hard glide bait. Is it real easy for you to determine whether they want a big soft bait or a glide bait?
Well, it takes 2 casts, Matt. A cast with the hard bait, a cast with the soft bait. How did they react? Move on to the next fish.
Really?
Yeah, that's how you got to look at it every single cast. And that was actually crazy. I can't wait to see the footage of that one. I did something that I've only done a handful of times. So I was working a fish with my big glide, and I could tell it was big, and I was lucky the wind was pushing me back onto the point away from this fish. So we followed it all the way to the boat, and I could tell it was a big one. And I'm working it side to side, and the bait's like 15, 20 feet from the boat. And I'm working it, and he's still on it. And then another fish comes up and starts falling. So there's 2 fish behind it, and they're going side to side with the bait. And I'm like, oh, one of them's going to eventually eat
Are they
it.
going? They're
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. But then they kind of slow down to it a little bit. But I kept drifting back, and I'm feeding line out, and I'm reeling, working a few times, feed some line out, reeling, working a few times. And finally, what happened was what happens a lot with big baits, and that is another fish will be on the bottom or below, and they'll see those fish up above following that bait, and they'll say, well, that's food. They're trying to eat it. I'm going to get it. That's how I've caught most of my teener-sized fish, actually. And that fish fires up like 10 feet from the boat and swipes at it and gets it, and I hooked it, and I got it in. And the coolest thing with that was, besides that, so I hook it, I get it in, throw it in the live well and coal. I pan back, and there's still like 2 or 3 fish in a group right there, and I hadn't even thrown the line through on that school. And I just flipped my line through 20 feet from the boat, and one of them eats it on the fall. And it was just like 6.5 pounder, 5.5 pounder. Oh my God.
That's nuts.
Yeah. It
So
gives me goosebumps
when
thinking
they
about it. It was
when
so
they
cool.
get behind it like that, I've always wanted, and like I said, we could go a million different directions here. Why don't they eat it when they get in that trance? You talked about how you have the competition and a fish goes, that's it. Is there something in that fish's brain? Obviously, I don't think they have cognitive thought, but is there something in that fish's brain that is saying this is not alive? There's something wrong with this? Because you would think otherwise, if it was a gizzard shad, I mean, it's right there. It's going like this. Why are they not just engulfing that thing when they first see it? Why do they track the bait instead of eat it every time?
It's just some type of negative cue that your bait or something is giving them. And every fish is different. So you just kind of roll with the punches with the big bait. But whether it was the way that the hooks were hitting the bait, or the way that the bait was not rolling how they wanted it to, or if they could hear the waves slapping against my boat, or see me out of the corner of their eye twitching the bait, something was making them not eat it. I mean, it didn't look that much like how a gizzard shad actually swims. But yep, something's just off with it. And that's just another part of the experiment. That's why I knew the entire time, like, everyone out here on Bassmaster taking pictures, all these spectator boats, all my fans watching at home, they want to hear about how I'm catching them on a big bait, and they want to see me catch them on a big bait. But I could not have won that tournament on
Without
a big
the Carolina rig.
Correct. And so I was like, all right, I just got to keep throwing the rig. Next spot, I'm going to start with the rig.
You could have top 10'd it on a glide bait.
Yeah, definitely. I might have been able to win it on the glide bait, but probably not.
I just
the last
find that
day I didn't catch one on it, so probably not.
So do you think if you were I think down in Florida on how many of those guides have the golden shiners, and they're, you talk to the guys, you get around the golden shiners, you watch them catching 8-10s on grass edges where you go down, you might catch one. Do you think that's the same scenario when you get these big gizzard shad up there? If you were to free line a gizzard shad up there with those fish without hesitation, just freaking truck it, there would be no following behind it.
Absolutely. I got 2 ponds in the backyard here. It's another thing I'm lucky, and I've put some giants in them. And I see that all the time. They're very smart. I caught all of them that are in there, and so they've all been caught. They've all come from public water and seed baits. But they will eat a live bluegill, which is what they eat in there immediately when they won't touch anything else.
How big were these gizzard shad?
I only saw a few of them like come up towards the surface and kind of scurry off, but I think they were all like 7 to 12 inches.
Okay.
And I did throw, Matt, I remember you asking me at the start of the year, the first time I came on, what's the biggest bait you will have on your deck and throw this year in the opens? And I said my 15-inch Moby, and I threw that a decent amount in this tournament. I didn't catch a fish on it. I had some big followers, but I didn't catch any on it.
Okay, we're going to show 2 things. I want to, I would assume does that bait exist on the internet?
On Instagram, I think.
Okay, so like that size right there.
Yeah, that's money. A 3-pounder can choke that thing down.
Okay, and then what is this 15-inch Moby that you threw?
Green Leaf Lures Moby. And they just came out with a new 10-inch size. I need to get one of those.
Oh, wow. That right there.
Yep.
That's either a tiny, tiny hand or a big bait.
That's a big bait. 3 hook hangers on it. I've never
threw
caught
that
one under
in
7
a tournament.
pounds on it. That's what Felix was with me. In the first cast with it, Austin Felix, he caught one that was just under 10 pounds on it. Boat flipped it.
And what did you have happen with that bait in the open? You had followers, but you never caught one on it?
Just followed it. That's just another part of my experimentation that I'm talking about. Like sometimes whether it's a 3-pound fish or a 10-pound fish, just a different size bait will cause them to commit to it when they're just following other baits. So I've had that happen before where I've thrown a 10 or 12-inch bait over the top of a fish or a group of fish, and they'll follow it or they won't commit to it, and then they'll come up and crush that thing. So I was hoping that would happen, and it did not.
Are you a top 5 glide bait angler in the world right now, Ben?
I have no idea. That's hard to compare. That's like comparing.
Who would
LeBron
you look up to?
Kobe and Jordan.
Who else is out there that's gliding at your level that I need to be watching and paying attention to, that understands it?
I don't know. I don't know everyone that does it. I haven't fished with everyone that does it. I'm sure there's a lot of Japanese anglers that are phenomenal with it that I would never even hear of. But
I'm talking about bass guys in America. Are there other guys where you're like, yeah, that guy knows his stuff? Like to your level that you could have a conversation with that isn't. I mean, I'm asking like 3rd grade questions to you, Ben. I appreciate that you're answered them, but I mean, I know this is rudimentary stuff.
I know Oliver knows a lot about glides. He's been doing it longer than me. I don't know if he knows some of the things I do, and I don't know a lot of the things he knows based on his experience in California. Mike Gilbert knows a lot about glides, and we've had conversations about different modifications that we both make to baits, these big glide baits and what types of baits and what types of actions are the only baits that are having fish, these super pressured fisheries in California actually commit to these baits and not just follow them. Mm-hmm. So we've had these conversations about that. I draw a lot of my inspiration with big baits from Matt Peters. I don't know if he does that much anymore, fishes a ton anymore, but he came out with the Southern Trout Eaters. That was a huge moment for me.
That was so badass. And that's the one where they were catching round trout on the White River with it and stuff. And they've gone all around the country and catching traditional areas on big baits.
Yep. And that's a amazing documentary. And then my buddy Austin Neary, Dream Catchers Guide Service out there in North Carolina. He's very good with the glide, better than probably anyone that fishes major tournaments. But his strength is with that clash. That he's a real good power fisherman. He's fished some opens in the past and stuff. It's just not the direction he wanted to go with his life. But he's a monster with that crank down bait. Yeah. So those are all guys that I have a lot of respect
with a lip.
Yep, I actually caught a fish on the stupid clash. I make fun of him so much because I can't catch fish on that bait, but That teaser that I posted this morning, actually, that fish that made up my 5th fish in the limit was with that bait, the Tiny Clash. So,
hold on, let me.
Not on Tackle Warehouse, but they got on eBay and stuff.
Yeah, this is a niche bait that goes for big money. Oh, I think we just lost Ben.
What'd you do?
There.
I'm here.
I can't see you.
Hello.
All right, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. Ben, you might have to kick out and then jump back in. Because I can hear you. I just can't see you.
Okay.
BTL on a Tuesday with Ben Milliken. There you go. You're back. We'll be back right after this.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday. And we'll add Ben back in. I don't know, can you hear me, Ben? Because
I can hear you.
We got the black screen again.
What the heck?
It's great for the iTunes podcast. No one knows about that, but go ahead and jump back in one more time, and then we'll wrap things up on the show today. Like I said, talking with Ben Milliken, fresh off his Bassmaster Open victory on Toledo Bend. He won by about 10 pounds. I think he had like a 15, 16 pound lead after 2 days. And it wasn't it was easy if you were around the right stuff. It was not an easy event if you weren't around the right things. We'll get into the more of that tomorrow. All right, Ben's
Can
back.
you see me? All right,
Yep.
beating.
All right. Last time I talked to you, Ben, you were down at Toledo Bend. You were actually pre-practicing a month before this event. Did any of that stuff help you? Do you feel like your dedication to that paid off?
No, and I fished the one day is the last day before it went off limits, and I about got my head beat in by 25-mile-an-hour north winds down there. And no, I didn't. I caught fish that day, but I didn't find anything that really helped me. Kind of saw some stuff, which was nice.
All right. What has the feedback been from the win, from your fans, from professional anglers on the BPT and the Elite Series, from anybody? Has it been more, less, exactly what you expected?
It's been great, man. Feedback's been awesome. I was talking to Mercer about that yesterday. It's been such a positive experience. I had heard, the opens are so cutthroat. People get on your stuff, watch you fish stuff, fight over spots and everything like that. But I haven't had that experience the first 2 times at all, first 2 events here. And yeah, man, everything was so cool. And I was telling Mercer the last morning before we took off, I wasn't a terrible nervous wreck, but I was definitely I was nervous, like it's just normal nerves and stress. Mm-hmm. And Todd Castledine pulls up next to me in his boat and he starts tying stuff on. And I didn't even notice that it was him, or I didn't see it was him. And he said, "Man, you did a great job this week. Strong work. Keep it up." And,
it's not like Todd to do that.
No, I've known of Todd and I've followed him for a very long time and heard about him forever. And, yeah, just a guy like that's willing to come out and say that before we're about to take off really meant a lot to me. But yeah, I've heard from a ton of elite guys. It's been awesome.
Where's the trophy now?
Trophy is in the living room right now. I was just going to throw it in my apartment on the trophy shelf that I got, but my wife said I had to keep it in the house for this time.
Oh, you probably... Yeah, that's got to be. I just keep thinking like is that your only like big trophy, or did you have a bunch from when you tournament fished before? Because I mean, you fish all the time, you spend a ton of time on the water, but you're not fishing where you can win hardware.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I obviously had a bunch of trophies and plaques and stuff, but none of them compare to that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. I'm so excited. I'm so happy and grateful.
Are you going to try to do the same system? I mean, you're not going to shy away from the big baits and the oddball patterns when we go to Bugs or when we go to Wheeler or when we go to Eufaula in Oklahoma, are you? I mean,
I'll have the same everything on the deck. And again, if I got to catch them on a drop shot, that's awesome. And if I catch them on a big bait, that's cool too.
Who made your trophy shelf?
It was with the house when I got it, actually. So that's nice.
I thought Drunkwood asked.
Oh, he made one actually. I need to get. I don't know if it'll fit on the shelves. He made me Drunkwood.
Oh, not big enough. The shelves aren't big enough.
No, come on, man.
That is a big trophy. All right, I got a couple of things that I want to show off that I think might be handy. You're welcome to stick around if you want to. See. We talked about one of them before the show. So when I was at the Classic, dude walks up. I think his card's in there. Yeah, his card's in there. Sean walks up, gives me the Drop Shot Jock. They're out of, I don't know where they're out of. Anyway, if you have the rod that doesn't have the little keeper that you can keep your drop shot in, look at this. This thing goes right on the end of the rod right there, and your drop shot weight just sticks right in it. See it right there? And then your drop shot weight just goes right in there and boom. It's freaking money.
It's the deal.
Are you a drop shotter at all?
Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I mean, I haven't thrown at the first 2 tournaments, but I've thrown other finesse stuff at Eufaula.
Oh, you threw some finesse stuff at Eufaula?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you throw there? Like a Demiki or something?
No, I can't tell you that, Matt.
You can tell me what kind of finesse stuff.
I threw a flick shake and I threw a free rig, and I caught fish on both.
What's the deal with that? I've heard that now a couple times. A couple people being like, "Oh, that free rig is the deal." What's your experience been with it?
Yeah, it's good. It's different. I would have thrown it here a lot more, but the stupid Texas fish, for some reason, I don't understand it. They want the damn Carolina rig more than anything else dragging, it seems like, everywhere I go, which hurts my brain. But the free rig's cool, man. It's a really interesting, it's a freedom of movement technique. I love dragging a swing head real slow and methodically. I don't really fish a jig much anymore. I just drag a swing head as far as offshore football jig type stuff. But the free rig's cool because you kind of get two different things with it. You get when it falls, so that weight isn't fixed and it's made to freely move. And so when it hits the bottom quicker than your traditional Texas rig would. It separates itself more. And when that happens, your bait, which generally you want something that has a little bit of quiver and action in the tails on it, it's swimming and flapping real hard down. And then when the weight hits, the bait stops and levels out horizontally like that, whether that be 6 inches from the bottom or 5 feet from the bottom, depending on how heavy your weight is, how deep you're fishing. It's just a secondary movement. And we were actually catching really good on a tube like that at Eufaula. But it would go down and then level out and then, kind of have more of that spiral action probably on the fall. But you can fish about anything you can really want to on that. And then after that, you can drag it the whole way in, and that bait has more freedom of movement because your line isn't, horizontally going through a bullet rig like a Texas rig. It's just going through that one little clip. So your bait's naturally going to have more side to side wiggle.
I
Just
got
something
you.
different.
So you get a little bit of like the weightless, wacky style on the fall, and then swing head on the retrieve in.
You got it.
I like it. Are you a super organized guy, or do you just have piles of baits?
Both. Depends on how everything, I don't know, just depends on what I'm doing. But I've tried to get my boat pretty organized before each of these tournaments. Definitely.
I know. I never have it. So this is the other thing that I wanted to show everybody. This is the most organized that I've ever been. So Sunline has these new line cases, and then you open them up on the inside and you're like, oh, that's cool. It's just, but I'm kind of proud of this one. I've been meaning to show this for a week. So that's a new color that they just came out with. That's why it reminded me. But look at this. I can carry this in my boat. It's one piece. It's a unit. It looks cool. And then I can carry every single line from 10 up to 30 in there.
I like that. Are those just stacked in there, or are they on like a spindle or anything?
So they're not, but they're like 8 different foam cushion insulated in there. So I can fit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can either fit a dozen of the 660 yard spools, or I can fit 4, 8, 12, 16, or 24 of the smaller 660 yard spools.
Man,
and
that's
then it just closes up. So I'd always struggled with the bigger Ziplocs and stuff. And then there you go. You're good to go.
That's crazy nice. You might have to send me one of those because line management is such a pain.
100%.
I feel like every time I pull a spool out, I'm chopping off 40 yards of line that's spun around in the dang bag and is everywhere. It's not good.
Pete's claiming that I don't use 30. Look, Pete.
Is that what you snag paddlefish with that or what?
No, that's what you flip bushes with. There's 30 right there. 30-pound shooter.
Look at you.
I got 25, 22, 20, 18, all the weird Japanese.
Do you put the 30-pound on an extra heavy spinning rod or an extra heavy?
That was well played. That was well played, Ben. You got anything else? When are your videos going to drop?
Oh man, good question. Hopefully, I need to talk to Cole, but hopefully the practice video. I think we're putting all days of practice into one, so that's a lot of non.
It's a lot of editing.
It's a lot of editing. Probably more so for him than the tournament days will be, but probably put that on Thursday if he gets it done in time.
Okay, and then
probably like Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday or something for the 3 tournament days.
A video for each day.
Yep.
How did your non-tournament followers respond to all of your tournament videos now? Has that been a good reception, or have there been people that are like, dude, I just want to see you catch big ones. I don't give a damn about the tournament?
I mean, there's always going to be people that are sad that you're doing one type of content over another type of content, but the reception's been great on the channel. And obviously when I got into the opens this year, I was excited to get my brand and audience and everything in front of more of a tournament demographic and the guys that are serious tournament followers. But that's been great and gotten some more eyeballs, but it's also been great to see a lot of the hundreds of thousands of people that never would have followed tournament fishing or know anything about that type of culture to now be into tournament fishing. So I think it's working great for both sides.
And that was kind of my point in that call as to how significant that open win is.
Absolutely. I think it's really cool. Hopefully we can kind of keep it up and have some day threes and stuff the rest of the year. And man, the Classic's going to be incredible. I'd strongly encourage all my fans and everyone else to be there and support. I think we can have some crazy numbers this year.
I could see everybody in the 402 shirts.
I like that. Yeah, that'd be sick.
That's just your area code, right?
Yeah, that's the Omaha, Nebraska area code.
Are you ever going to wrap the boat with the fans' faces, or do you like being a little incognito with the front deck? I mean, right now it looks brilliant.
Yeah,
by wrapping the deck and not the boat.
Yeah, it's definitely not been up to me that it's not wrapped yet. That's been a kind of
okay. So that's not
a bus, but it has
strategic.
Been nice to be incognito at the same time.
So you're still planning on wrapping it then?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Gonna have to go a different direction with it now. Still the same type of wrap, but someone else doing it.
All right. You got anything else? Like I said, I know you're super busy.
I
know you got a bunch of these.
I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, a lot more in-depth that went into with Johnny Schultz. I think you're going to have stuff coming out with Mercer. You're doing Stray Cast tonight, right? Tomorrow night?
Yeah, the end of the Great White Opens. I think tonight. I don't think it's going to air tomorrow night. Yeah.
At this, so definitely an impressive win, Ben. And like I said, I had Matt Steffen in studio yesterday, and he said, dude, he goes, we would get done with our MLF Invitational, and we wouldn't even look at our standings. We'd be at home like him and Chris Groh, and they'd be like, what'd Milliken do today?
Wow.
That was the first thing that they
man.
checked. And I mean, you're talking established, long-time pros there, so definitely turning some heads, and appreciate the time and effort that you have put into it, and then also the YouTube stuff, bringing everybody along.
That's super cool, man. I really appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, Ben. See ya.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. Later. All right.
See
that
ya.
was Ben Milliken, the latest Bassmaster Open champion in 2024. Is he the first? No, he'd be the second. He'd be the third Bassmaster Classic qualifier, because I think you have the defending champions in it the next year and then the first Open in this one. So 3 out of the 50. So this has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. Tomorrow, Johnny Schultz breaks down what should have happened at Toledo Bend. I said we filmed an hour show 2 weeks ago. What did happen at Toledo Bend, where I went wrong, where Ben went right. We're going to break it all down tomorrow with Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment. We'll talk to everybody then. See ya.